Hey, good morning there, Ambassador Frederick. Just tuning back in. For example, there's many places on the earth where gangsters have ganged up. And you got to realize they're not in cohorts with each other because they want to be their own gods. Like we talked about, the Nephilim don't exist here, but they still influence. So if you ever looked at the map of Washington, D.C., it's a pentagram on the streets designed satanic. And the enemy, to get control of the USA, they had to take a state that's not a state. They had to take an area that's not part of the United States, but it's inside job, inside the US of A. District of Columbia is not a state. So they moved the White House from Pennsylvania, or to hijack the country. I was talking about gangsters like different areas like the French Quarter, Louisiana, California, LA, Hollywood, where the enemies rule from New York, which is Long Island. And so let's talk about Sin City. Let's just boil it down to Sin City. Just keep that in mind. Sin City. Where these gangsters compete for money in a town of finance. And they did everything they could to get people all caught up in the moment. Of course, the house always wins. Now, it's rare that somebody wins and stays a winner. I have met professional gamblers that are millionaires. They knew how to beat the house because they were not caught up in it, in the gambling, in their mind, in their, not so much their mind, but their emotions. Energy and motion. Emotions means energy and motion. Emotion. So let's back out. So the demons, the Nephilim, the fallen angels work through people to control territories. And then if you're in a place or area, like, I'm in the Bible Belt, which is majorly satanically controlled, and people don't realize it because the enemies are more subtle than the beasts of the fields, birds of the air, and beasts of the fields. Because we talked about the buffalo. That looked like a beast, smelled like a beast. Obviously a beast. But the enemy's so subtle, so they call it the Bible Belt. But Bible Belt is choke chain. Keep them zombie, state a zombie, pouring their hard-earned money into the finances of the churches, which are illegal, because Jesus, when he died, the curtain was torn from top to bottom. So we talked about that in other videos. So let's talk about your prayers. So there's a guy who, in a New York minute, can knock the spirit of death. Death, get off of him in the name of Jesus. And people bring their noise. People bring their noisy dead. No, people bring their dead to them. They've even been dead 3 days, and he raises them from the dead. Now, there come a time where he was doing it so routinely, he lost his humility for a short time. And the enemy came after him and tried to kill him. If you want to read about a story, you can message me, and I'll send you a link. So Archangel Michael came to him because it's global spiritual warfare. Archangel Michael came to him, all breast-paraded, serious, and just stood at him. Didn't even look straight at him, just stared. And the guy tried to do everything he could to deploy this angel. He didn't know it was Michael. He could deploy other spirits, but he lost his humility. And that's a bad thing, because that's what Lucifer wants you to do. He wants you to be your own God, without Jesus, without your humility. So He couldn't deploy him because go back and reread Daniel. Daniel could deploy Michael in New York Minute because Daniel was humbled. So if you want to know how to fight the war in the end time through your prayer, look at Daniel, look at John, James, where people are asking wrong for their prayers instead in God's will. So if you're in Sin City or in a gambling casino working on an Indian reservation or wherever you're working in the gangsters' places, I'm not telling you to leave. You may be the only one in there praying. And through your humility, every knee will bow. Okay, knee will bow means humble themselves and confess Jesus is Lord. Jesus is Lord, it's a fact. But when it says every knee will bow, it's more than a fact. It's like, oh my God, Jesus is Lord. Instead of you being your own God. So if you're in an area like Sin City, your prayers are being heard, but the enemy don't want you to know. Enemy going to pull out every stop he can to destroy you, your marriage, your family, your children, because he's pissed because your prayers do count. But then he wants you to be pissed and quit praying. Because once you lose your humility and become prideful, just like these fallen ones, and now they're principalities in high places. They're principal people in high places that work for these demons, these fallen angels that don't exist in this realm. So you got to let God do the work. You got to stay humble and pray. Now, those who live by the law die by the law. Those who live by the sword die by the sword. So you have to imagine you have to pray and back out. Don't engage the enemy. Don't poke the devils, because they're going to poke back. But you allow God and his angels to do it. And they live by the law, they die by the law. So they're going to die by the law. So that's why the law had to come all the way up to this point in time. So Jesus' forgiveness, which the law don't understand. The law don't forgive, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The law don't forgive. But Jesus' forgiveness. So you bring in forgiveness, and that's what the prayer is, but some of them can't be forgiven because they will not humble themselves and pray, so they live by the sword, die by the sword. So you understand they'll get shot, they'll get killed any which way, and if they're stealing from the widows and the orphans and the widowers, destroying widowers' houses to sucking up their money, they're going to end up being very poor. Very poor. They're going to go from millionaires, and they're going to be broke. They're going to be homeless. They're going to be the opposite of what they think they are because they think they're high and mighty Lucifers. We talked about Napoleonites, Luciferians. So everything that comes around goes around. What you sow, so shall you reap. So you have to understand your prayers and your humility is the authority and the power to deploy angels. Because once you get prideful, angels just fold their arms like this and they won't budge. They won't budge. They won't even stare at you. They won't even look at you. They won't even acknowledge you, even though they're right in front of you. It's like Balaam's donkey had to talk. Can't move. His angel. Balaam, beating a donkey. Reread that story. Stay humble, my friends. The enemy's being dismantled. Enemies being destroyed. 2025 is a year of reckoning, massive reckoning. So just in the next 90 days, 120 days, everything's going down big time for them. And be ready to be raised up in a higher position. Raised up in a higher position in government, in business, because it's all about stewardship, which we call nowadays management. It's the managers that fail. So in the Bible, they call it stewardship. So think more managers So when the earth is being switched over, given over to the new guard, the new people, God's fresh, new, spanking new Christians, humble, cometh to me as a little child, Jesus. You'll be raised up in higher and higher positions with more and more authority. It's still a warning, don't get prideful. Because you can do a lot more damage to the enemy by being where you're at, in the enemy's camp even. And unbeknownst to the enemy, God will shield you from the enemy, like Michael's kicking their butt, Archangel Michael. But who's the one deploying the prayers? Who's the one? Because what you hear from heaven, like we talk about, go to heaven, I bring back the revelation. But then you pray, humble yourself and pray. 2 Chronicles 7:14. And then the angels are released, and God will heal your land, the animals, the crops, the earth, your family, and everything will be protected. It's all done through your humility. And it can be really hard and very trying because the enemy's trying to piss you off at no end. Like, God, why is the enemy messing with my family? Well, it's still a test. Like Jesus, Lucifer said, you turn these rocks into bread. He was hungry. 30-something days, 39 days of fasting. It's not good to tempt your Lord your God, and which means he's not tempted. Sounds good. I'd like to eat some bread, but I'm going to stay the course. The disciples even started leaving them one by one, and then it boiled down to just two. And Jesus says, will you all leave me too? They said, Lord, there is no other way. So there is no other way. Humble yourself and pray and stay prayed. Stay strong in him, and that his angels, him and his angels, God's angels, will rectify everything that's messed up. And there's so many people in ministry that are going down because they just out there for your bag of money, just putting your head, fill my head full of money, and then they leave your town. There's a person who started out as a prophet, and lived in Arizona, lived in Texas, lived in Florida, and just keeps moving. Won't do any damage to the enemy. Just keeps moving around, collecting money wherever they go, living nice, living in motels, hotels, buying more houses, sucking up your money, doing no damage to the enemy. And the thing is, it goes from pride to humility, pride to humility, pride to humility. Bipolar prophets, prophetesses, they don't know who butters the bread. We had Paula White ordained to put blinders on Trump. So Trump would not understand who the Antichrist is. Because the new Pope, the new head of the pedophile gangsters of the worldwide church, the Mystery Babylon, the Babylonian system, elected a new Pope, new poop, and a new gangster. Check this guy out, he's a gangster. Works for the Nephilim. So then this next thing is the Antichrist. And the same thing that happened, Jesus says, when the Last Supper, Jesus, it says, then the Spirit entered him, entered Judas. So Judas was ordained by Jesus to be the Antichrist, to sell Jesus out so that he could be murdered, he could be crucified, he could be murdered. If you think about it, Judas had to sell him out. Bad job, bad position. Don't want that job. To sell out Jesus. You want to be for Jesus, not against him. Be better a millstone be wrapped around his neck. Judas hung himself and his entrails fell out. It's like he was full of snakes. Symbolic as he's full of snakes. So your prayers are doing much damage to the enemy. Try to avoid stage shows. For years, the Lord told me, do not get on television, do not get on radio, and do not get on YouTube. And then he explained to me so I won't get in his way. I goes, what do you mean? He said, so that I won't put myself out front and be like Lucifer. It's him. It's like Galatians 2:20. No longer I that live, it's him that liveth within me. It's him that speaketh through me. Him that speaks through me. If I get prideful, I be gone by the way of Lucifer. Psalm 82. Die like a man. Die like one of the princes, which a lot of princes, which means also principalities, which also means the fallen ones. There are hierarchy in heaven that didn't fall, but we're talking about the gangster demons, the nephilum. So you wonder why you've been going through a hard time? If it was just one fallen angel, it'd be a lot easier to knock him down, be easier row to hoe. But they're all coming against, even though they don't exist in this realm, but they're people who are influenced by them, but don't poke the bear, they'll shoot you. Don't live by the sword, die by the sword. Try not to get angry. Try to keep yourself humble, because even anger is a sign of insecurity. Anger is a sign of insecurity because you don't think God's going to take care of you. You don't think the angels will be deployed. And that's what the devil wants you to think, that you're not deploying angels, but you are. You are deploying massive angels. There's legions upon legions and legions, 10,000s of legions of angels, just like in the time of Elisha and Elijah. Allow your servant to see there's more for us than against us. If you could see us like a stadium and all the rafters are full of angels, like angels in the, what was that movie, Angels in the Outfield. Angels in the outfield. Tens of thousands of legions of angels deployed. And a person who keeps themselves humble. That's why it means keep a knee to the floor and an ear to heaven. Stay humble, my friends. Got it? Get the word out.